Okay.
Go.
Go ahead, Ruben.
Yeah, we're with Keenan Shriners, and we do this to help kids.
All right, and what are you doing today? Is this St. Patty's Day?
St. Patty's Day parade, we're marching in the parade.
And doing Buddha belly rubs.
Buddha belly rubs, excellent. And what are you raising money for?
We raise money for Shriners Hospitals for Children.
Okay, and what are those?
Those are 22 hospitals across the country, specializing in orthopedic care and a couple burn hospitals for children.
And the Shriners are?
Masons.
They're Masons, okay. And that would be this building way up there.
Yes.
And that Masonic temple, is that yours particularly?
I bought it yesterday.
You bought it yesterday?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and that was obviously after George Washington set the cornerstone, correct?
How'd you know that?
I don't know, something about that place.
Well, hi there. Join one. My friends, my very, very best friends, they just call me Rose the Hat.
Wow, it's so pretty.
Because it's special. You're a little magic too, aren't you? The flower in my hand, what color is it?
Purple.
Violet. Like you.
You don't eat flowers.
But you do.
But these are special.
It's the special ones that taste best. You are a special little thing, aren't you?
Enter the stars. And there is something very fascinating about plants that is not widely known. Plants that flower first before providing their food bear fruit, but plants that flower after bearing food are called vegetables. Apples, cherries, pears, oranges all flower first before producing fruit, while broccoli, asparagus, celery, and kale all flower after yielding their food. Now, what does this have to do with Dr. Sleep? Well, there is something else few know about fruits and vegetables and flowers, and that is that to the evil ones, flowers represent children, as well as fruits and vegetables represent children, and the evil ones eat flowers and fruits and vegetables as a symbol of that. This is everything we discovered on this channel 2 years ago, and now it's being fictionalized in modern media, entertainment media. This is full disclosure in the film Dr. Sleep, which of course is the sequel to The Shining. Oh, but wait, there's more. We told you that 88 is 666, and this 1960s carpet pattern is called Hicks hexagon, HH. And alphanumerically, that's 88. This was the carpet pattern that showed up in the Shining film. And interestingly enough, it showed up in a child's film called Toy Story 2. And this pattern, if you look at it, is really a hexagon within a hexagon within a hexagon, which is 666. This is David Hicks, and he died on the 88th day of the year, March 29th. Now, did David Hicks know he made a 666 carpet pattern that would be used for evil films? Who knows?
Like a 1,000,000-watt battery all plugged in, and it ate it up. World's a hungry place. And the darkest things are the hungriest, and they'll eat what shines.
This one's special. Her name's Violet. And she tastes like flowers.
Now, at this point in the film, which I had barely started to watch, I have to admit I was feeling a bit unsettled with the direct connections to elements that we had been talking about on this channel. These repeated 88 patterns. It tells me something. That maybe we were meant to find these things. So it hit me what Dr. Sleep was really all about. It's the breath of life, breathed in by God into your nostrils, into Adam's nostrils, that set your resonant frequency, your resonant being in this reality. And the enemy wants to collect that. He wages war on creation and is literally collecting your breath.
And today, children disappear and they get raped, tortured, sacrificed and murdered in castles like Amerois in Belgium and Sautou in Luxembourg and many other places as the Bohemian Grove by very organized gangs like the Dutroux gang and by Fourniret, whose name indicates to deliver the king, fournir roi, without children in this case. The nobility always were into Satanism and other dark mystical practices of their pharaonic ancestors as ritual child sacrifice. They always did and they always will, protected by their knights, police and authorities.
Okay, we're back. It's 8 minutes after the hour, and we're going to get deep inside the Illuminati, the family, the order. We have a guest that was involved with this group, born into it for over 30 years, and her name is Svali. Svali, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Well, it's nice to have you here, and I know you don't give radio interviews, and I really want to thank you because I think it really does help the American people understand about this secret organization that you were born into. So I guess before we, I guess we can just start from the beginning and tell us, right from the beginning, you were born into this from wealthy parents, and tell us about your training in this group and when you were a young child and then up into your orientation at the Vatican. Go ahead.
That's a pretty broad area, though, Greg. I mean, that could take hours, if you know what I mean.
Yes, but do just if you could just outline it for us.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in the group. I was born in Germany, came to the U.S. very young, and basically went through all the training that the group, all members of the group do undergo training to different degrees, depending on the role. By the time I was a teenager, I was a youth leader, and by the time I was 22, I became the youngest member of Leadership Council in San Diego County. And at that time, I was a head trainer. I was the sixth trainer. I eventually moved up to the second position. Mm-hmm. And when I was 12, I had mentioned with you the ceremony at the Vatican. But they really do make all leadership in the group undergo at some point.
Now, basically when you were growing up, I remember you told me that you were instilled at a young age. You were born to a very wealthy, well-to-do family. You moved back to the States. You were told at a very young age you were special. You were chosen, correct?
Well, they tell everyone in the group that they're special and chosen. And in fact, that's one of the things that made me very cynical when I was older, is that, you will never meet a person who's an Illuminati who's not been told and programmed for years that they're special, they're the only one that can do things for quote-unquote family. But I was told, yes, I would do great things for family one day. And the reason why I guess I can filter some of this with an objective view is I know what my role in the group was, and it was over quite a significant number of other people. So I don't evaluate my role or specialness within the group, not so much by what I was told, but by what I did.
So you reached the age of 12, and then you're told by your parents you're going to an induction ceremony in the Vatican. Can you tell us how that happened and what occurred at that ceremony when you went there?
Okay. This isn't easy to talk about, as you know. When I was 12, I was flown over to Germany, and I was at, I'll call him the German father's house over there. And there was some preparation for a few days beforehand, and I was told that there would be a very important ceremony, and it was considered a sealing ceremony at that point. And basically, I was told a little bit about what I was expected to do during the ceremony. When we got there, we went to the Vatican. There's underneath the Vatican, there's a large room that I described to you when we talked before. It has 13 catacomb chambers leading into it and what they do is they, as you go down these steps into the room, you can see that it's almost circular, and so they're all around it, and they bring out the mummies from the catacombs, and they set them beside each one, and they say that the spirits of the fathers watching over the ceremony. And during the ceremony, there was a large table in the center of the room. It was on top of a huge golden pentagram, and they had a ceremony there. You know, they.
Okay, now how many other children were with you being inducted into the family or the order, as they call it?
There were 2 other children at that point, and but there were several adults too.
Okay.
See, the church also brings in adults to swear their allegiance too. Just so you know, I was told, and I don't know if this is true, but if you rise to a certain position within the Catholic Church hierarchy, you do have to go through that ceremony as well.
Okay, so you're down in this room with your parents weren't present.
No. The German father and the French father were. Yeah.
Okay, and at that point, tell our listeners what you witnessed.
Well, there was a table. It looked like dark glass in the center of the room. I mean, it was made of stone, but it was very shiny and dark and black. And it may have been something like obsidian or onyx. I'm not sure. You know, I'd have to. That's the only time I've seen stone like that. And it had like around the corners, they had like these gold, I guess, channels that you know, to collect fluids. And little boy was in the center of the table and drugged. I think he was drugged because he was very quiet. He didn't move or say anything during the ceremony.
This was a little 3 or 4-year-old boy.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then they continued to go ahead. They continued to do a child sacrifice.
Yes,
right
they
in front
did.
of you.
They did. Yes. Yeah, I told you about that before. Yeah.
Now, afterwards, quite what a unbelievable experience for a youth. I mean, for a 12-year-old. I mean, I just what went through your mind? I guess when that happened. I mean,
I was terrified. I mean, I was absolutely horrified. I can't describe the terror you feel when you go through something like that.
And do you remember the words they were saying as this was going on?
The man was in scarlet. He was speaking in Latin, and basically he was saying, you know, please accept the sacrifice, you know, on this day. But then, you know, and then he said the sacrifice will seal the ceremony, and then he did it. Again, I was so terrified that. Have you ever been in a situation where your heart's racing, but you can't do anything, and so you're just kind of sitting there, and you're kind of like fading in and out?
Well, you know, I can remember as a youth being frightened, but I don't think I've ever
no. All right. Well,
gone through anything quite like what you have.
Imagine your heart rate going up to about 220. You can't move, so you're kind of shaking, but trying like not to show it. Mm-hmm. And it, I mean, it was horrible. And I was keep thinking inside, I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait. I mean, you don't say this, but inside you're just kind of saying over and over, I can't wait till it's over. I can't wait till it's over. I can't wait till it's over. Afterwards, the man in scarlet, he had a huge golden ring on his hand, and he came over to the center of the room, and he had each of the people that were swearing that day. I had to go forward and kneel before him and kiss his ring and swear my allegiance to the new order, to the new world order, until my death.
Now, at that point, you were escorted out.
Yes. Yeah. After the ceremony was all over. I mean, the other people also did theirs as well. You know, they had to swear their allegiance too. And then
they were what, the same age? They were the same age as you?
The 2 children were, but there were also 3 adults that went forward and did the same. And afterwards, we were told, may the same to you or worse occur should you ever break this oath.
So, children in Dr. Sleep are abducted based on how strong their spiritual gifts are, how much steam they have. Does this sound familiar? There's a whole website all about collecting steam. And the bad guys in this film are called the True Knots. And they say that pain purifies steam. Does that sound familiar? Adrenochrome. And they show this pinkish, it might even be an off orange, but to me it looks pink. They show the girl on the bed, the pink sheets, as the boy is being tortured, and they're harvesting his adrenochrome.
Pain purifies steam. Fear too, so you understand.
They eat screams and drink pain. And they've noticed that little girl, or might keep her till she's all used up, and that'd be worst of all.
Now, a doorway opens between this girl and the tortured boy. And the fear is what opens this gateway. And it's the fear that they're actually really feeding off of, which is what we've told you. So, the True Knots, who are they? Well, this is the true lover's knot, and I believe this is what they got their name from, or Stephen King wrote the story of their name after this. The two toroidal fields, two serpents eating their tail, two Ouroboros. They took something like a lover's knot that is supposed to be so beautiful, and they turned it to the dark side. So you see, this isn't just a horror movie. It's the truth. Take care and be safe, you guys.
I think sending humans to space is our latest expression of the ancient human practice called human sacrifice.
When I'm on the case, my spyglass makes things a million times bigger, so it won't mess in at the small.
Detective Anthony Bassone has one tough job: picking out pedophiles online and busting them. He tells us the heart targets girls, the triangles little boys.
Publisher's introduction to the book The Secret History of the Jesuits by Edmund Paris. There is no other person more qualified to introduce Edmund Paris' book The Secret History of the Jesuits than Dr. Alberto Rivera, a former Jesuit priest under the extreme oath and induction, who was trained in the Vatican and briefed on the history of the Jesuits. This information is factual and fully documented, and it should be read by every Bible-believing Christian in the United States and Canada. The Bible says, quote, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge," unquote. Hosea chapter 4 verse 6. Dr. Rivera's introduction. The most dangerous of men are those who appear very religious, especially when they are organized and in a position of authority. They have the deepest respect of the people who are ignorant of their ungodly push for power behind the scenes. These religious men who pretend to love God will resort to murder, incite revolution and wars if necessary to help their cause. They are crafty, intelligent, smooth, religious politicians who live in a shadowy world of secrets intrigue, and phony holiness. This pattern, seen in the secret history of the Jesuits, spiritually speaking, can be seen in the scribes, Pharisees, and Sadducees at the time of Jesus Christ. This same evil spirit directed by the Roman emperors to issue the 10 murderous decrees to persecute the early Christian church. The, quote, early fathers, unquote, observed most of the ancient Babylonian system plus Jewish theology and Greek philosophy. They all perverted most of the teachings of Christ and his apostles. They paved the way for the Roman Catholic machine that was to come into existence. Piously, they attacked, perverted, added to, and took away from the Bible. This religious Antichrist spirit working through them is seen again when Ignatius de Loyola created the Jesuits to secretly accomplish 2 major goals for the Roman Catholic institution. 1, universal political power, and 2, a universal church in fulfillment of the prophecies of Revelation chapters 6, 13, 17, and 18. By the time Ignatius de Loyola arrived on the scene, the Protestant Reformation had seriously damaged the Roman Catholic system. Ignatius de Loyola came to the conclusion that the only way his, quote, church, unquote, could survive was by enforcing the canons and doctrines on the temporal power of the Pope and the Roman Catholic institution. Not by just destroying the physical life of the people alone, as the Dominican priests were doing through the Inquisition, but by infiltration and penetration into every sector of life. Protestantism must be conquered and used for the benefit of the popes. That was Ignatius de Loyola's personal proposal, among others, to Pope Paul III. Jesuits immediately went to work, secretly infiltrating all the Protestant groups, including their families, places of work, hospitals, schools, colleges, etc. Today, the Jesuits have almost completed that mission. The Bible puts the power of a local church into the hands of a godly pastor. But the cunning Jesuits successfully managed over the years to remove that power into the hands of denomination headquarters and have now pushed all the Protestants denominations into the arms of the Vatican. This is exactly what Ignatius de Loyola set out to accomplish: a universal church and the end of Protestantism. As you read the secret history of the Jesuits, you will see there is a parallel between the religious and political sectors. The author, Mr. Paris, reveals the penetration and infiltration of the Jesuits into the governments and nations of the world to manipulate the course of history by setting up dictatorships and weakening democracies such as the United States of America by paving the way for social, political, moral, military, educational, and religious anarchy.
Especially I work in dealing with the infiltration of churches and religious institutions as well as government. That cover a tremendous number of institutions.
And the purpose of that infiltration was what for?
Well, the purpose is what the Roman Catholic system has all the time as her own purpose, is to infiltrate, to penetrate all the areas of life where the Roman Catholic can have control and access for the coming world government.
Simply put, this country and this world benefit from your commitment to Jesuit principles, to being men.
As a graduate of another great Jesuit institution, Xavier University, I have great affection for the value and purpose of a Jesuit education.
What that means is, in preparation for that world government, the Roman Catholic institution, especially since the establishment of the Jesuit order in 1541, throughout these 500 years, they've been in preparation and through infiltration and penetration of every level of society in order to take over the world politically and religiously.
What a beautiful day the Lord has made. Holy Father, on behalf of Michelle and myself, welcome to the White House.
There are two doctrines that define very well these dangerous goal of the Roman Catholic institution. Two doctrines define this very well. One is called the doctrine of the apostolic succession, and that is dealing with the papacy. And the other is the doctrine, the temporal power, and that is dealing with world government. Of course, both, because you can see that even the Pope and his own individual office, he meet those requirements. He is not only the head of his church, as he called himself, John Paul II, the present Pope. He said he is the pastor of his church. He is not only that, but he is the head of his state.
It is a sign, perhaps, of how far we have come in this country that today's news of formal recognition between the governments of the United States and the Vatican did not create a furor. Once upon a time, it would have. Once upon a time, and not all that long ago, it did.
From the time of President Washington, there was the first president to be utilized by the Jesuits. If you were not aware of that, President Washington already was initiated by the Jesuits to bring about the first communication with the Vatican ever known in this country. From there on, President Reagan, to all this time, President Reagan has come to fulfill the greatest moment in the history of this conspiracy, because no other president has come as close as President Reagan with the Vatican, and even not even John F. Kennedy. What that means is they have done to President Kennedy, to President Reagan, what they were not able to do even through a Roman Catholic president. And nevertheless, I will say this: the religious belief of President Kennedy is nothing more, nothing else than another expression of Catholicism. Perhaps I need to clear this. Roman Catholicism is not only the Roman Catholic system. Roman Catholicism is still, and it has been at work outside the Roman Catholic system. What that means, there are many daughters of the Roman Catholic system outside the Roman Catholic system. And as there are many daughters, these daughters have children, and of course President Reagan fit within that picture. His relationship with the Vatican today brought about several things. One of them is the diplomatic relationship with the Vatican. Second, the preparation for the signature of a concordat between the Vatican and the United States. And if you want to know, this never took place overnight. President Reagan was prepared and is here for the task that is performing today as President of the United States by the Jesuits of Rome, and the time that he served as a star in a movie that was very well known and still being shown today, a very old movie about the football team of Notre Dame.
New Block name.
That's correct. This is the time that the first contact was made by the Jesuits with Reagan.
We were on the way back from London on a jet plane, and there was a man dressed in a uniform like the Catholic priests wear, and he was conducting himself not like a priest you'd see in a movie, very friendly. He was a very sophisticated type man, and people could sense that. And I never thought I'd see him again, but in Baltimore at the airline station where the baggages come off, well, I turned around and there he was next to me. And I just turned to him and said, "Hello, friend. Are you a Jesuit?" And he says, yes, with a big smile. You see all of his teeth. And he was very happy with himself. I said, well, listen, I'm very interested in the Jesuits. I've read some about them. And what would you think about the Council of Trent and what was invented in the Council of Trent and the infiltration of the Jesuits into Protestantism and the use of the Jesuits through organizations like the Illuminati and the futurism theory, the secret rapture that they invented for the Protestants? And I talked to him about a lot of those things, and he had a metamorphosis take place. His face became rigid, his smile went away, and he looked me right in the eyes and he said, you know quite a bit, don't you? Like he never expected it. And I told him that you know, I was one of the Protestants that got away. And if he could realize that if somebody like me knew those things, just imagine some of the other of God's people that know those things and are willing to tell anybody about them. And it was an amazing situation how that man's face changed. And he thought he was like in one identity, but all of a sudden he realized that these dark secrets of theirs, they're being found out. And I'll never forget that. Would you consider that Jesuitism to be an occult secret society?
It is an occult secret society from the point of view that the Jesuit order, what you know of the Jesuit order and what everybody knows of the Jesuit order is not the truly Jesuit order. What that means is even the Jesuits within the Jesuit order, they all are not knowing the secret society, the inner secret society that they are surrounded by.
Even better than my temperament. You know, Cardinal Dolan and I have some things in common. For instance, we both run impressive properties on Fifth Avenue. Of course, his is much more impressive than mine. That's because I built mine with my own beautifully formed hands. While his was built with the hands of God, and nobody can compete with God. Is that correct? Nobody, right? That's right. No contest. It's great to be here with 1,000 wonderful people, or as I call it, a small, intimate dinner with some friends. Or as Hillary calls it, her largest crowd of the season. Ah, this stuff. This is corny stuff. I do recognize that I come into this event with a little bit of an advantage. I know that so many of you in the Archdiocese already have a place in your heart for a guy who started out as a carpenter working for his father. I was a carpenter working for my father. Who would have thought we would be witnessing what we're witnessing today? We've got to be very strong, very, very smart, and we've got to come together, not only as a nation, but as a world community.
This work that you do through the dinner, Al, you've done it now for 30 years, is such a labor of love. You've been a hero for both the children of the Archdiocese and for the city of New York. And I think we all owe Al Smith a great, great round of applause. The Holland Tunnel was a secret passageway to connect Rome and America to help the Pope rule our country.
Deep in the forest of Belgium, just outside the little village of Munot, lies a dark castle, a place so forbidden, many locals refuse to even speak of it. Shrouded in secrecy and heavily guarded, it is rumored to be home to unspeakable horrors. Officially, its name is Chateau Amaroy, aka the Mothers of Darkness Castle. It has been accused of being the epicenter of the Illuminati underworld, hosting some of the elite's darkest rituals. high-level monarch programming. Join me as we unlock the secrets of Mothers of Darkness Castle and discover why it has earned the nickname the most evil place on Earth.
One investigator said it was like going back to the Middle Ages.
One of the Illuminati's top ritual castles.
And of 1,000 points of light.
The elite love their secluded castles and stately homes far from the prying eyes of the public, where they can engage in perverse and strange practices for the worship of their ancient gods. In Belgium lies just such a castle, the menacing Chateau Amaroi. It has been named by researchers as one of the main ritual centers of the Illuminati, but researching it proves difficult. Little information about this castle is available, and the owners appear to be doing everything they can to keep it that way. Almost no pictures of the interior exist online. Even the BBC and National Geographic have allegedly been denied access. The castle's wooded perimeter is heavily guarded, with cameras, electric fences, tripwires, and more. The castle was originally built for Prince Philip of the notorious Saxe-Coburg-Gotha royal bloodline, the same family as the British royals, who are descended from Vlad the Impaler, the original Dracula. Today, it is owned by an elite family of Belgian industrialists called the Solvays. The Solvays are one of the wealthiest families in Belgium. They own large pharmaceutical and chemical companies responsible for the notorious drug Prozac and the industrial-scale production of fluoride and fluoride products that get added to the water we drink. Although officially named Chateau Amaroi, the castle is better known as the Mothers of Darkness Castle, due to it being the alleged meeting place of a special rank of Illuminati witches known as Mothers of Darkness. Mothers of Darkness are high-adept witches who come from old satanic families. The macabre rituals they perform would make your blood run cold. The candidates for the Mothers of Darkness are subjected to ritual abuse from childhood, resulting in a dissociative mind that is easy to program. Most high-level Illuminati witches have some dissociated identities known as multiple personalities. Mothers of Darkness are programmed and initiated within the mysterious Chateau Amaroi.
Mothers of Darkness seem to be like deep satanic priestesses that have also then raised daughters and or granddaughters and have been over many of the women involved. So they are deeply well known in the underground of satanic ritual abuse and multiple personality disorder.
But these elite witches aren't the only reason the castle maintains such strict privacy. The site is also said to be home to the Belgian elite's satanic Eyes Wide Shut parties, which involve children and are usually filmed for blackmail. This was all revealed during the infamous Dutroux scandal that nearly caused a revolution in Belgium and saw the resignation of top officials. It all began in the early 90s when children started going missing in alarming numbers. It took Belgian authorities 4 years to arrest a man named Marc Dutroux, despite numerous credible tip-offs that he was kidnapping and holding girls prisoner, including one from his own mother. Dutroux was procuring these children for the Belgian political elite and aristocracy to use as party favors for their blackmail operations. After the scandal broke, one Belgian senator noted that such parties were part of a system which operates to this day and is used to blackmail highly placed people. The same system of blackmail operates all over the Western world and is one of the Illuminati's primary means of control. The Dutroux witness files are replete with stories of such parties taking place in castles, and one specifically named the Chateau Amaroi.
And so I exposed this ritual castle in southern Belgium. And at first, this was in 1991, and a number of years transpired, and it was like I was a voice in the wilderness and nobody had heard. But eventually it did get heard. And what happened is in Belgium, the Belgian government was toppled. They had big protests in Brussels a couple times where there were over 500,000 Belgians protesting their government. And the reason why is because there was a big scandal that broke loose where people had discovered that there were satanic covens in their government, the government of Belgium. And this got connected and people then were able to connect what was going on and some of the people back to this castle that I had exposed.
Because Belgium is the global center of the European Union and NATO, many of the so-called elite from around the world attend these parties. A Belgian newspaper reported that a former commissioner of the European Union was among a group of judges, lawyers, and policemen who attended orgies organized by one of Dutrox's assistants.
Sorry, this comes from the Sunday Times back in 1996, but here goes. Quote, Brussels satanic sects involved in bizarre rites, including human sacrifice, are being linked by Belgian police with this summer's string of grisly pedophile murders in which at least 4 children died. 5 witnesses came forward last week and described how black masses were held at which children were killed in front of audiences were said to have included prominent members of Belgian society.
Many of these witnesses described hunting parties where children were allowed to run in the forest and then hunted down like animals. These adrenaline-pumping events are said to be a favorite of the psychopathic elite. Abuse survivors Kathy O'Brien, Fiona Barnett, and Paul Benassi all have described similar hunting parties, known to the elite as the most dangerous game.
It was early evening when they played Most Dangerous Game. I was stripped of my clothing. I was allowed to wear tennis shoes and told that I could have a head start and begin running before I would be hunted down. My exposure to it resulted in my believing I had no place to run and no place to hide. It seemed there were no limits to what could happen in my existence at that time. Was the most extreme, one of the most extreme situations I think I ever survived.
One investigator remarked that it was like something out of the Middle Ages. Dutrox was heavily connected to the satanic underworld. One cult we know he provided children for is called Abraxas. Abraxas is an openly satanic group which names itself after a pot-bellied demon called Abraxas. In 1996, police discovered a note to Dutrox from a mysterious person calling themselves Anubis. The note informed Dutrox that a special ceremony was coming up and instructed him to provide quote-unquote presents for the high priestess of the Abraxas order, and even gave specific details as to the age and sex the presents should be. No doubt some of these children Dutrox kidnapped were delivered to the Mothers of Darkness Castle, where researchers have reported that child sacrifices take place nearly every day.
Do you expect to see yourself on plane struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center 1 year ago? Hundreds of people have gathered here at Ground Zero to mark the anniversary and what is expected to be. We tell you that the anniversary ceremony will also include several moments of silence, marking the times that the hijacked jets place roses on the site for a flower arrangement that will be turned into.
That's you and I, as the Masonic Illuminati sees us, as mindless apes, bowing and worshiping their demonic black obelisk of Masonic wisdom and Luciferian light. Their cube, so they think, that's going to spark and create this new world order, this Luciferian Antichrist system that's about to come upon the entire world. All symbolized by events taking place in our day and age. 9/11. That was one of their events. The Hilton Hotel, you can see it in the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. Blatantly, just there it is, put there in the Hilton Hotel in space. They both checked their watches. So they're telling you a little time story right there, how this is all dealing with time. And remember now, the original script was dealing with Saturn, not Jupiter. And Saturn deals with time. When you look at the original Millennium Hotel that was built in front of the Twin Towers, it's an obelisk. They intentionally built it to look like the obelisk in 2001, and they even say so. In the original script, of course, it's a cube that they changed. The logo of the Hilton Hotel is two twin towers within the all-seeing eye. It also is a pause button. A pause button stops time. It freezes time. It's also a 6, which is a 9. It's 666, and it's all in the movie. When you look at another one of their hotels, it shows like a split down the middle, representing like 9/11, Twin Towers falling over. There are 5 pillars on each side, and it's split down the middle, and that's for the center column in all of the designs of Freemasonry. It's all there, represented. The monolith Hilton Hotel, representing the monolith. They even said that that's what it represents, officially. And there it stood in the middle, and it still stands to this day. The monolith, the center invisible pillar cube that survived the disaster. Well, now, I found this footage on YouTube. It was shot by somebody else. And what I found interesting is he shot it from the Hilton Millennium Hotel that's built in the shape of the monolith from 2001. Still standing to this day. And he's shooting outside of the window, looking at the 2 memorials for the Twin Towers and the Freedom Building and some other buildings. I mean, don't you find it strange that this thing survived? I mean, they really planned this out pretty well. They made only what they wanted to come down. The perfect demolition, but that's how they did it. Intentionally making sure that this monolith cube represents their Illuminati wisdom.
I was born in 1926 in Hamburg, Germany. And I lived there till the year 1937, and we left Germany because we were Jews and we were persecuted. From there we left to Holland, and from Holland we came to the United States, where I joined the Lubavitcher Yeshiva in 1941, and I became one of his Hasidim. When I joined the Lubavitcher Hasidim, I found a way of living the happiness and the joy, how a Jew lives, and which pulled me towards this way of Judaism. When a Jew gets up in the morning, one of the first things he does is to say his morning prayer. Every morning, except Saturday and holidays, he first puts on tefillin. Tefillin consists of two specially prepared leather boxes containing certain biblical scriptures. One of these is bound on the upper arm, opposite the heart. The other is placed on the head. This very important observance signifies the submission of the heart and mind to God.
Throwing it back.
Well, they thought it was a curse. Would you like me to show them how the sign of the curse works?
So don't blame it on the story. Go on with it.
All right.
So that's the sign of the horn, and then what happens? Is that it?
And they respond, we want Mashiach now. Around 1980, this Rebbe Schneerson started telling his followers that we want to bring out the Messianic age. We want to hasten the return of the Messiah. This is to justify the title. I said a doomsday cult. Well, they're looking to bring on the Messianic age, the end of days. This is a meeting with the young Bibi Netanyahu in 1990. You can see the influence they might have in Israeli politics.
מה שלא יאות, וגם מצו שעדיין משיח ליבו, אז הייתה מה שהוא ומה ידיעתו. הכנראה שהיא מספיק, כאילו שהיום כבר שוד, כמה שוד בגיר ועדיין ליבו, אבל יש עוד כמה שעות, אבל יש להשתדל גם היום.
Looking to bring on, hasten the coming of the Messiah.
At one time, the Lucis Trust was located at 666 United Nations Plaza and was formally named Lucifer Publishing Company. The Rockefeller-funded UN Meditation Room is 33 feet long and 18 feet wide. 18 feet is 6 plus 6 plus 6. The small, dimly lit, windowless room was built in the shape of a pyramid that is laying on its side. At the center of the room is a 4-foot-high, black, casket-shaped stone slab which weighs 6.5 tons and is extremely magnetic and rests on a concrete pillar. The pillar descends beneath the floor into the bedrock and taps into the Earth's hyperdimensional energies to induce a state of altered consciousness.
just like cattle having a number punched in the ear or under the skin somewhere. This is where the aristocracy, the kings and queens, nobility they dreamt of in the Middle Ages, and now they perfectly have it. They just have to conceal it from us, or not even that. There are no more valors where families live in poverty and a man can marry another man and even adopt a baby, as they voted in France like 3 weeks ago, being not the product of their unholy union. They can't reproduce themselves, but still there are more and more of them. Well, that's no wonder when defenseless babies have to grow up with them. Once they came along with great armies as masons and built roads, aqueducts and castles, and now they still call themselves masons, though the real work being done by their sheeple, so they're free with their masons. This is Castel del Monte in an octagonal shape. This is octagon with the triangle of the masons at the entrance. They videotape us everywhere as a shepherd keeping an eye on his cattle, and we have to carry documents with a picture on it to show the ownership by them owning us. The aristocracy owns us just as in the Middle Ages. 30 million Russians starved to death due to this aristocratic parasite called the Tsars, leading to uprisings and revolutions, just as elsewhere. So the aristocracy had to hide in secrecy. So this means they are afraid of us, very, very afraid. And maybe we still have a tiny little chance left.
The Calliope.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the House of Freaks. Prepare to see some people with some very odd physiques. Sit back, my friends, relax, my friends, the show is quite informal. Cause when you see these folks, you will be grateful that you're normal. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the House of Freaks. Let's bring out the strangest folks you've seen in weeks.
To all our brethren to receive the most merciful, the Grand Master.
This is nothing short of an evil horror unfolding before our eyes. We agree. Now, let's outline a matter of practicality. And folks, this is a practical issue. As we're on this downward spiral that we find ourselves, who gets to define inappropriate now? Who gets to define that this is age inappropriate now? Because you know what we've done? I will walk you through. I'll walk you through the last 70 years worth of us abandoning the only authority that humanity has ever adhered to say that this was inappropriate. There's only been one authority that has ever approached humanity to say that this is inappropriate. It's not found in the Bhagavad Gita. It's not found in the Hindu Vedas. It's not found in Mithraism. It's not found in the Roman Empire, Republican, the Republic diaries of the different, even the philosophers in Greece. None of those people ever said that child abuse, of sexualization of children, of pedophilia, of castration of young boys for sexual perversion, none of those people have ever said, none of those religions, none of them have ever established that this was wrong. There's only one place in the world you find people who disagree with this, and that is in a Christian nation. In a Christian nation. Because this is principle of God's creation, of God's creative purpose. You guys can't find that in any other religion.
This is the world you are graduating into. This is what I want to talk about today with you for a few minutes. To lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century.
Footage has emerged of the former Vice President Creepy F. Biden, with young children and with the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. We just want to play these clips and want to warn you that what you're about to see is very disturbing. Now, obviously, the behavior that you're seeing here fits the profile of a pedophile. Obviously, nobody out there would take liberties with other people's children like Creepy Joe Biden does. And there's just tons of footage of him out there touching children inappropriately, caressing them, massaging them, basically grooming them, and making them feel basically awkward in their own skin. And this is part of the pedophile process. This is part of the virus that we're dealing with in terms of these spirit cookers. Now, check out this footage. This is the Attorney General Jeff Sessions when he was senator being sworn in by then Vice President Biden. Now, all the people are running away with their children, but Biden sees a victim. So he swoops in, he tries to touch her, and boom, he's like, get out of here. Get out of here. Don't touch this kid. He knows. Jeff Sessions knows what Biden is. And the reason that he knows is because he's had many years to work with him. So obviously this man has a reputation. They know what they're dealing with as fellow senators and colleagues. But this is just some of the very strange, bizarre, and damning footage that we see out there regarding this creepy Biden. Now look how he kind of like, he's like, come here, kid, come here, and he grabs her, yanks her, and then he starts touching her. I mean, this is very inappropriate and disturbing behavior, but it's very classic. It's what it's expected when it comes to these kind of people. Look at him, whispering sweet nothings, and this is kind of like his MO. He's basically grooming the children, trying to make them feel comfortable, making them feel special, that kind of thing. I mean, this is what predators do. We're seeing it again here, and it's very inappropriate. He grabs him by the arm, he yanks him real close, and he's like, come here, kid. I mean, this stuff, he even tries to kiss her. This is messed up, and he's smiling. Look at this now, more petting, more caressing. Look at this, he kisses her. I mean, this is disturbing.
I hold that to be self-evident, Brother Franklin. All men are created equal.
Indeed, Brother Washington. All Freemasons meet as equals, and we have an opportunity to create a nation in the very essence of Masonic morality. It would be wonderfully symbolic, don't you think?
You'll be wanting to put the all-seeing eye on our banknotes next.
You think I'm taking it a bit far?
Please don't ask me questions like that, Brother Franklin. You know I cannot tell a lie.
Oh, come on, Brother Washington. Everybody lies occasionally, surely, especially politicians.
Not me. Not even so much as an alternative fact.
But we must all be aware of fake news.
The people must be free to think what they like as well. We can have no thought police in our new society. The foundation stone of our new nation built on all those principles that we hold dear.
The plans for our new capital city already have a very Masonic feel to them, yeah.
Candidate for initiation into the order, I'm giving him a little introduction into some of our mysteries. These two gentlemen are founding an entire nation built on our principles.
We have great promises for our new nation. I wonder if other presidents after me will also be Freemasons.
Many will be. And Freemasonry will become embedded in the American culture. And the eye will appear on the banknotes.
Oh, God.
These principles will be honored with a gift from your French brethren. A gift that will be a welcoming beacon to the poor and oppressed. This is the statue we are giving you.
It's a bit small, isn't it?
Oh, this is a maquette. The real thing is bigger. Much, much bigger. I call her Liberty Enlightening the World.
Catchy. America will produce a great many great Americans from many different walks of life and many different fields, and many will be Masons. Sportsmen, actors, writers, soldiers, filmmakers, businessmen, inventors, astronauts.
What on earth is an astronaut?
No, they're not.
I don't follow.
Well, they're not on Earth, they're in space. In fact, Brother Buzz Aldrin was the second man to walk upon the surface of the moon.
That's the best thing I've heard this evening.
What, that a Mason walked on the moon?
Man on the moon. Amazing. But don't forget the musicians. Do not forget the musicians.
Known as that rule of three again. The 3 degrees.
In Bright Eyes, Shirley dances coquettishly down the aisle under the too appreciative gaze of her aviator pals. Brandishing huge lollipops, the all-male crew proceed to maul Shirley. They pick her up, shove a box of Cracker Jacks under one arm, and press her face into an oversized cake that leaves traces of white icing around her mouth. In a mocking reenactment, Humbert complains of catching Little Limp Low dripping a look in the direction of a friendly mechanic and bursting into a perfect love song of wisecracks as soon as he turns his back to buy a lollipop. Shirley often comforts her male co-stars in a too adult fashion. Sometimes she fiddles flirtatiously with their ties. Shades of incest creep into poor little rich girl, as Shirley lies cradled in her father's arms, stroking his face and singing. Incest seems a safer option than being stalked by a creepy child predator who tries to lure her with peppermint candy. In Rebecca's Sunnybrook Farm, Shirley loses her voice and is examined by a doctor behind a locked door without an accompanying adult. Depraved choreography is seen in Captain January, where Shirley has a close encounter with her dancing co-star, Buddy Ebsen. The gratuitous slapstick gags continued. Some of Shirley's studio portraits also present her in a distinctly inappropriate manner. Further signs of a covert pedophilic agenda are discernible in Curly Top, where millionaire benefactor Edward Morgan is utterly bewitched by his orphan ward. Crooning is also new to me. He eagerly anticipates the new thrills on offer in my wonderland. Morgan dreams of an utterly naked cherubic Shirley gilded in gold paint. Although this scene was either cut or censored, in her autobiography, Shirley recalled fearing death by toxic asphyxiation as she plunged a mythical dart into Morgan's heart. Morgan's hallucinations continue as all the paintings in his study are suddenly haunted by Shirley's image. In Lolita, the piano scene is comically revisited when Quilty stops to sing a few hysterical sonorities accompanied by soundtrack snorts as Humbert chases him around Pavor Mansion. Why, we may ask, is Shirley's dress shorter at the back than the front as she pirouettes on top of the grand piano? And what exactly was the purpose of the scene where Shirley creeps into Morgan's bedroom, then jiggles up and down on his stomach? At least Denmark had the sense to ban Curly Top for unspecified corruption upon its release. Curly Top makes use of the telltale spider code. This theme emerges after Morgan buys a hula dress and ukulele for his tiny ward, and we see Shirley dancing in a grass skirt. A short while later, Shirley is lying on the beach reading a comic strip. The camera zooms in on a cartoon where a man yells, "There's a big spider in your skirt," to a woman in a hula dress. A voyeuristic close-up of Shirley's buttocks ensues as she rocks back and forth on a seahorse in a swimsuit that is conveniently too small for her.
The fact that this man,
Alfredo Rodriguez, claimed that this little black book and these circled names was the holy grail to dismantling and convicting the members involved in this massive pedophile sex ring headed by Jeffrey Epstein. And before Rodriguez could detail specifically the significance of these circled names, he died, supposedly of mesothelioma. So it remains a mystery why these names were circled, why Mr. Alfredo Rodriguez wanted to highlight these names, and why he called it the Holy Grail to exposing this massive billionaire pedophile ring. Now, as many of you know, I recently put out a video exposing the fact that Donald Trump has been known to be buddy-buddy with the Clintons, has been known to donate to the Clinton Foundation, and to be a contributor to the Clinton presidential campaigns regarding this massive pedophile sex scandal. It also came out earlier this year that flight logs released put Clinton and Dershowitz on Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile private sex jet, quote-unquote, the Lolita Express, named after the movie Lolita, which was openly about having sex with underage girls. It also came out that sworn statements from Virginia Roberts, the woman who claimed she was a teen sex slave forced to have sex with Prince Andrew, included the allegation that she saw the former President Bill Clinton on Epstein's quote-unquote orgy island. And then subsequently after that, and this is pretty damning if you ask me, it came out that billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein sent Bill Clinton $3.5 million from a secret Swiss bank account, according to a whistleblower. Now, remember what I previously said about Clinton obtaining a deal on behalf of Epstein and Prince Andrew and others to basically cover all this up and quell the legal, social, and political backlash received by these disgusting pedophiles. So I don't know about you, but to me this is pretty obvious. These people are all in with the same crowd. The Clintons, the Epsteins, the Trumps, and they all watch each other's back. They're all in on this, okay? Clinton made efforts to absolve Epstein and others, Prince Andrew. You see Trump in this guy's little black book, in Epstein's little black book, circled and highlighted. The guy's butler, Epstein's butler, called this the Holy Grail to breaking this pedophile ring down. I mean, the Israeli prime minister, these are high-level figures. We all know that a lot of these elites are into pedophilia and stuff like that. Trump connected with all this, allegedly, as you can see here.
Freemasonry has burned as a blazing fire through the last 3 centuries.
As permanent master of these 3 lodges, I now call on my deputy masters.
Most Worshipful Grand Master, on behalf of the Brethren of Royal Somerset House.
Most Worshipful Grand Master,
our ceremonies and forever remind us of our incomparable heritage, the birth of organized Freemasonry,
stressing the deep and sincere loyalty and affection felt by the Brethren of the United Grand Lodge of England for their Grand Master.
We leave the Royal Albert Hall even more proud of our ancient institution.
Most Worshipful Grand Master, I humbly ask you to complete the initiation of this worthy candidate for Freemasonry.
I hereby read the text of a letter sent today to Buckingham Palace. May it please your Majesty, we, the representatives of over 200,000 Freemasons under the United Grand Lodge of England, most respectfully express our continuing loyalty to your Majesty's throne and person in this, the 66th year of your long and distinguished reign, of His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent, as our much loved and greatly respected Grand Master. We humbly thank God for preserving our order and fervently pray His blessings on your Majesty, so that our loyal devotion to your Majesty may long continue. Given at the Royal Albert Hall this 31st day of October, Anno Domini 2017. Her Majesty has been pleased to reply in the following terms. The Queen has asked me to thank you for your kind letter of loyal greetings on behalf of the representatives of the Freemasons under the United Grand Lodge of England, which are being celebrated on the 31st of October at the Royal Albert Hall. Her Majesty appreciated your thoughtfulness in writing as you did.
I had the pleasure of meeting 136 Grand Masters visiting from overseas at Freemasons Hall yesterday. Today, though, we are a meeting of more than 4,000, gathered from all around the world, from our own constitution and beyond. When the global Masonic family comes together to celebrate our past and to renew our own pride and confidence in and enthusiasm for Freemasonry.
It's not some science fantasy effect from 2001. This electronic display, emanating from Australia's largest computer, is a picture of the condition, past, present and future of planet Earth. The program was originally devised by a scientist working from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Jay Forrester. It was developed under the auspices of the Club of Rome by an MIT research team to present a complex model of the world and what we humans are doing to it. The program, called World 1, doesn't pretend to be a precise forecast. What it does for the first time in man's history on the planet is to look at the world as one system. It shows that Earth cannot sustain present population and industrial growth for much more than a few decades. It shows that simply cleaning up our car exhausts and making some small effort to limit our families simply isn't enough. It's like an electronic guided tour of our global behaviour since 1900 and where that behaviour will lead us. Well, this is the printed version of what we've just seen on the television screen. And what looks at first to be just a maze of computer characteristics is really a system of very simple graphs which project what's going to happen to the planet over the next 150 years if we don't do something drastic to stop it. Down the left-hand side of the graph is the date, 1900, 1940, 1980, 2020, right down to 2060. Now, each of these lines of letters represents a curve showing some aspect of the condition of the planet. The further out this way they go, the greater that figure is. The further this way, the less. For example, P represents population. So here it is at 1900. And then it comes up to 1940, it starts to take off. Here we are at 1980, up to the turn of the century, and then it starts to peter off. Let's now have a look at this next curve, the Q curve, which is the quality of life. And this is represented by, for example, the amount of space people have, the amount of money they have to spend, the amount of food they have to eat. Now, it increases rapidly up to 1940, but from 1940 on, the quality of life diminishes. And here we are about the turn of the century, and we come up to the year 2020, and it's really come right back. More people, of course, means that you start to chew up your supply of natural resources. And this is this curve here, the N curve. And it shows that slowly but steadily, the pool of natural wealth in the world, natural resources, minerals, oil, and so on, is slowly but steadily diminishing. So this is the situation. As population increases, the quality of life decreases and the supply of natural resources decreases. But have a look at this curve here. This is called the Z curve, and it represents pollution. Now, predictably enough, as the population increases up to 1980, pollution increases. There's more rubbish. But from 1980 to the year 2020, pollution really takes off. This is assuming, of course, that we don't do anything about it. So the year 2020, the condition of the planet starts to become highly critical. And if we don't do anything about it, this is what's going to happen. The quality of life is going to go right back to practically zero. Pollution is going to become so serious, right out here, that it will start to kill people. So the population will diminish. Right back here, less than it was in the year 1900. And at this stage, around about the year 2040, 2050, civilized life as we know it on this planet will cease to exist. Well, hopefully, of course, it won't be allowed to happen. But it's taken this kind of shock treatment to nudge governments into doing something, and slowly we are. We're starting to clean up our atmosphere. We're starting to recycle our rubbish. We're doing something positive about population control. But so far, our efforts have really been just a drop in the ocean. The Club of Rome comprises some 70 men of widely varying backgrounds, but their common concern is that the world problems cannot be solved by individual nations. I spoke with Professor Hugo Tiemann, director of the Battelle Institute, Geneva, Dr. Aurelio Pache, founder of the club, and Dr. Alexander King, director of the World Bank and the United Nations OECD. Dr. King, now you're describing the world as a closed system where all these things are interrelated, and yet the government, the control of the system is by individual nation states. Now, how do you convince them to cooperate?
The sovereignty of these nations is no longer as absolute as it was. There's a gradual diminishing, whittling away of sovereignty, little bit by little bit. Especially, of course, in the smaller countries, where it's more obvious. But the bigger countries have to do a good deal of this by agreeing to international arrangements for the law of the seas, or for the limits of fishing, or for control of the wavelengths in radio, and 101 other things. But especially in the technological field, I think this is going to be increasingly so because of developments next year. I was at an important meeting in Washington a couple of weeks ago, and Peterson, the former Secretary of Commerce, was saying the same thing from an economic point of view, that the general world economic situation, the interdependence of countries on their food and fuels and so on, is leading to an interdependence which has seeds of draining away of sovereignty within it. So I don't think one can envisage an idealistic of jumping to a world federalism or anything of that sort. But the building up probably in the next decade in a number of particularly sensitive fields like energy, raw materials, the use of the oceans, space and so on, of a number of what people are tending to call regimes, which will not be ordinary United Nations type of organizations, but semi-management organizations. There'll be a great deal of consent in them.
Dr. Pache views the European common market as an elementary example of the kind of regional cooperative which is going to be necessary. What responsibilities does he see for Australia?
Australia, you are in a splendid position.
What should we do?
You have food, energy, space. You are distant from other centers, so you can, for a longer time, feel rather more independent than interdependent. But things of the world are going so fast that I think that an enlightened leadership in Australia should see down the road that Australia will have to lose some of its on self-decisions in order to acquire something else which may be purely political in very wide sense, or maybe also security.
The Club of Rome is reluctant to point the finger at any one nation. Yet clearly nations like the United States, which consumes approximately 60% of the world's resources, will in the Club's view have to accept a severe cutback in its voracious appetite. But the Club's utterances are cloaked in a velvet democracy, in the hope that their facts will gently persuade.
We will ask who is making the decision, and whether the decision makers of today, whether they perceive the problems, what kind of problems, and the interactions of the problems. That's a very pragmatic approach.
Has the time come, Dr. King, when we're going to have to say we can no longer entrust our resources and the exploitation of those resources to private enterprise? Has the time come when governments will simply have to take more control?
Simple nationalization and things like that wouldn't help at all. because we've got to keep an incentive approach. And many of the good aspects of private enterprise are very necessary here, but not in the old exploitative way where the market forces dominated the whole situation.
Dr. Pichai, can you tell me what my lifestyle will be in 100 years' time? What sort of car I'll drive, what sort of house I'll live in, what sort of food I'll be eating?
Probably you will have a smaller car. You will use more common transport means. You will work many far less hours. You will have a wider cultural possibilities that today. You will not be so much pressed by immediate needs, because through technology, organization of the markets, the basic needs will be taken care of. And I think that you will love nature and continue then what I think you are doing now to protect our environment, to avoid this man-made world where the creatures of nature, the animals, the plants, the green spaces, the wildernesses are bound to disappear.
To the Club of Rome, the status symbols of the year 2000 will be the inverse of today's. Prestige will stem from low consumption. That personal consumption will have to be less is plain enough, but for that privation to be seen as prestigious would seem to indicate some radical rethinking, at least for the fat cats.
It was a high provincial. And this is why Joe Biden has come forth at this time to reveal that they're actually going to, in reality, implement and bring this New World Order. They're going to bring it now. This is it. The time is now. They're bringing the New World Order right now. It's going to happen. But they've waited for this moment. This is their appointed time.
It's been a long time coming, but tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
Jessie.
What's the matter with Jessie?
She was abandoned in a box for years. You're gonna get in a box.
What?
It's the only way to free Woody.
No way. I can't do that. I can't get in a box. I can't. There's gotta be another way.
Well, you guys, October 2013, Toy Story of Terror. Human trafficking is what you're really looking at. Now, I couldn't even believe what I was watching, but after putting it together with all the other Toy Story films, this picture emerges that what they're really showing us is child trafficking. Now, in this film, they go to the Sleepy Motel, and that is code for what they do to the kids to traffic them. And their toys who are stolen by this man that works at the Sleepy Motel. He runs this hotel, and he has this iguana steal these kids' toys, and then he sells them on eBay. He takes a picture of them, and then they go for auction. Now, Johnny Gosh's mother, who went missing in the 80s, said that there were people out taking pictures of Johnny Gosh before he was abducted, and that they were trafficking the pictures through magazines and different things. They didn't have the internet back then. And that people would auction the pictures and then they would go abduct the children. And that is what we see in Toy Story of horror. Now, there's always a cover story with these people. But when we get down into the nitty-gritty and the details of what they're showing us, the truth emerges, and it's undeniable. This goes back to MK Ultra Project Paperclip. And you see the soldier, and his name is Carl. And there's a big Carl and a little Carl. A big heart, a little heart. A big paperclip and a little paperclip inside of it. These are the pedo symbols. And they're repeated in this short 21-minute film. The paperclip is Project Paperclip. It's MK Ultra. It's the fracturing of the mind through trauma, so that the child finds an alternate personality, a smaller personality within the bigger personality. And this is what happens to them when they go through this experience. Now, I remember being a child and suffering trauma and wanting to just play dead, like a possum. Now, I couldn't find anything on the internet about that being a characteristic of child abuse. But as a child, I specifically remember that if I could just pretend that the trauma wasn't happening and I could disassociate from myself and play dead, that it wouldn't hurt. If I could just imagine myself somewhere else. And this is what these toys do. When a human walks in, they disassociate. They fall lifeless and dead. So now you're starting to see the minds behind all of these different animations. This is crazy. You could have never imagined that this was possible. Now this red carpet, the red drapery, we saw this repeated in Toy Story, I think it was 2, where Woody was also abducted and trafficked. The same thing, they took pictures of him. Okay? And they showed the building was like red. It had a red carpet and a red veranda. Well, they have the same red here, and that stands for trafficking, like the red light district. So now you know the truth, you guys. Here you see Wilson Phillips. That's a reference to Tom Hanks. Wilson, the volleyball. Phillips is Captain Phillips, the movie he played in. I know it's also a group.
This is very disturbing. And we're just kind of wondering, why isn't the FBI looking into this? Why isn't the Department of Justice looking into this? Look where he's got his hands here. He's basically feeling her up right there. How old is this kid? This is very inappropriate. Oh, here's some more grooming for you. Grabbing her by the shoulders, whispering sweet nothings into her ear. Here he's kissing some kid on the mouth. I mean, what is this? And here, this is probably the most damning picture that's out there. Joe Biden was a little bit younger. Just, what is he staring at here? This is very disturbing footage, a very disturbing individual. But this is these are the types of people that are protecting the whole underground pedophile network. Have no doubt about it. Where you see Democrats, where you see Democrats, you're definitely seeing pedophiles, no doubt about it. I mean, look at this footage. Very disturbing, very damning footage indeed. And he's basically pressing, he's pulling these kids up next to his genital area, unfortunately. I mean, that's very disturbing to say the least. And he's doing it right in front of everybody. And people know, I mean, they're trying to grab the kids. Here, get out of here, kid. I mean, this stuff is terrible. Look at this. I mean, all the people leave with their kids right away, and he's like, no, don't touch the kid. They know. They know what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. This stuff is not our imagination. It's right here on video. Why isn't CNN playing this? Why isn't NBC playing this? Why isn't Fox News playing this? Why isn't there an open investigation? Look at this stuff. They know, or else he wouldn't be slapping his hand away saying, don't touch the kid, right? If he didn't know, he wouldn't have done that, right? If it would have been just like normal, right, they wouldn't have done nothing. He would have been just like, yeah, here, give him a hug, give Uncle Joe a hug. But they're like, no, stay away from this Uncle Joe. This Uncle Joe is creepy as fuck. Creepy F. Biden, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Attorney General slaps away the hands of creepy Biden as he's trying, basically swoop it in there for the grab. Very inappropriate stuff here, ladies and gentlemen. Here, come here, kid. Creepy Biden wants to talk to you. Here, come here, come here. Let me touch you a little bit. Let me whisper some things into your ear.
Why is your hand over your eye?
Because I'm a devil worshiper. What are you talking about?
Really a beautiful baby, and she's got Marla's legs. We don't know whether or not she's got this part yet, but time will tell. She does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know.
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird. What's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that to her.
By the way, your daughter.
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
She looks more voluptuous than ever.
She's actually always been very voluptuous. She's tall. She's almost 6 feet tall.
Yeah, she's really something, and what a beauty, that one. If I weren't happily married, and, you know, her father.
My daughter, Ivanka.
Yeah.
She's 6 feet tall. She's got the best body.
Yeah, she's hot. Did your daughter get breast implants?
No.
She looks more voluptuous than ever.
No, she didn't get them.
And she got thinner.
She's actually always been very voluptuous.
My daughter is beautiful, Ivanka.
By the way, your daughter.
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
Patty, I mean, what?
What?
I mean,
There
this
are
is
no words.
Who is his favorite?
I'm going with Ivanka. I'm going with Ivanka.
Okay, now let us talk about this abomination. This is the pagan Canaanite idol god Moloch. Now, it is part of an exhibition and it is being displayed at the entrance of the Colosseum in Rome. Now, this exhibition is expected to run until March 29, 2020. Now, this ancient god Moloch requires child blood sacrifice. Right? It requires the blood of our children. And if you go to the Bible in Leviticus 18:21, it gives an account of this. Now, also, it is alleged that the approval came from the Vatican for this Canaanite idol to be put on display in Rome. Now we are getting somewhere. The Vatican allegedly approve a god that requires a child sacrifice. Let that sink in. Now we see where we are going. These people are grooming you to accept, right? To accept these ancient God and these ancient practices. They are trying to bring back the old ways. They are trying to bring back the old gods, and they are making sure that you are well groomed to do the things that they used to do. That is what is happening right here. So pedophilia was rampant, so they are making certain that you are well groomed into accepting the fact that you can hand over your child to a pervert to have relation with, because they're working on it. Now they are working on the fact that you should hand over your children willingly, right, for child blood sacrifice. How cruel can you get? How cruel can you get? And this Moloch statue is affiliated allegedly with the Vatican, and that is not a good affiliation you want as a religious organization of that magnitude. It says a lot about them and what they stand for. If you're going to have an exhibition about Rome's history and about ancient civilization, you could have put a small statue in a museum for people to visit. Why put a life-size statue at the entrance of the Colosseum where thousands of Christians lost their life? Why would you do that? Now you see what these people stand for. They know that they're opening the portal and these ancient gods are coming out. So they are grooming you to accept them and to fall in line. They are grooming you to do these abominations, things that will sin against the Most High, they are grooming you to do. But if you are not awake to the devil's devices, you will get caught out there. Regardless of which religion you're a part of, you need to get the information and know what is happening. These people are grooming you, right, to accept these abominations. There is no need for a life-size Moloch statue at the entrance of the Colosseum. You could put a statue in a museum, a nice small one, and sit and tell people what this statue is all about, instead of having this huge abomination in Rome where thousands of people visit the Colosseum. That's a slap in the face, and that is blatant disrespect. And if the Vatican is a part of it, people open your eyes and know who you are worshipping and who you are affiliating with. As I say, pray for our children, and glory be to the Most High.
Pizza, chicken, hot dogs, ping pong, underground cages. Just about everything you could think of was crammed into this movie big with Tom Hanks. You guys know my feelings on the most recent developments in terms of accusations against some of these actors. And this is what they do. This whole Pizzagate thing was all about accusations without solid proof. And even though we don't have solid proof with this movie, we have all the signs and symbols that have been repeated in the past. And this they can't hide from. You get to decide what all this means.
Whoa! Read this sign. You must be at least this big to ride this ride.
What?
Next!
Well, it's a stupid rule.
I'm putting it forward, and from all the other evidence that we've shown you in all these other films, how they couple children with pizza, ping pong, hot dogs, ice cream. And this is just some of the symbols. I'm not even showing you everything, because they do show ice cream references in here that I did not include. There are hidden images, hidden symbols, like this girl's pretzel shaped like a phallic. Let's watch.
Hey, great, they use HP 3000s.
Now, we already know what the milk means. And so they show him, his name is Baskin, which is like Baskin Robbins ice cream, right? They show him a couple times in the film eating ice cream. But you got to put all the pieces together. They show him on the milk carton, and look at the date. One day after Blind 11, 1987. That was the exact halfway point to Blind 11. Okay. They show her drinking the milk. That is why they put children on the milk cartons. So we're going to start with the pizza. Now, any one of these things that we're going to talk about doesn't prove anything, and even everything I'm showing you today doesn't prove anything. We're looking for patterns. These people are bold in their approach and how they do these things. Now, this is Tom Hanks with a boy who could be 18 but could be not, snapped in a pizza parlor in 2012. And there's the pizza theme again. We see the dark rimmed glasses. And looking back in time, we see what appears to be a really inappropriate scene, in my opinion. There's pizzas named after Forrest Gump, who was played by Tom Hanks. And here you see the boy. They're pretending like they're blowing snot. And then at the end, he does this motion that almost seems like he's doing something else. So you've got pizza references throughout. Here he's playing ping pong. Well, it's really racquetball, but it might as well be ping pong in front of a pizza parlor. In another scene, they're celebrating birthday at a pizza joint. Pizza, pizza, pizza. Now, I can understand one pizza reference in a film, but to keep repeating it over and over again and drilling it in, they're sending a message, because pizza means children. This is what it means to these sick people. So big deal. Pizza's in the film, all throughout the film. Well, they're repeating this for a reason. These are all known symbols by the FBI, and they were part of the WikiLeaks as well. I think that just actually slipped through the cracks. You see, everyone tried to say Pizzagate was fake, but what I really think happened is, isn't it weird how there's no mention of Sandra Hook or Blind 11 anywhere in the WikiLeaks? Doesn't that ring a bell for anybody? They scrubbed the WikiLeaks and they forgot to scrub the Pizzagate code words, because that is at the very tops, the very highest points of corruption. And they forgot to scrub them and they got through. So they turned it into a LARP. They basically modified the situation, took control of it, and turned it into what it became. But what they can't erase is all of this movie history that shows all of the very same symbols that they're trying to hide from, pizza being one of them. And now we add in the hot dogs, another code word. Now what makes all this inappropriate is that Tom Hanks is a 12 or 13-year-old boy stuck inside of the body of a man, a full man, and he gets his girlfriend, and they kiss, and there's all this basically pedophilia going on. And then you tie in these symbols that are known symbols that they're repeating over and over again, and you start to understand what you're looking at. So we have these kids trapped in these underground facilities, in cages and boxes. We already know that's happening. But they've been depicting this in these films all the way back to 1988. And here he is as a grown-up, the underground caverns, the evil wizard. This is something the way a child would describe their experience if they were in here. And we saw in the opening scenes of the film where this wizard locked it into a cube, almost looked like a cage or a box or a crate. And here Tom Hanks is relieved of that. He then writes his parents a letter, which sounds like basically a ransom letter to his parents, saying that he's okay, exactly what a kidnapped child would do. Someone who was in one of these underground places.
I could write you and let you know I was okay. I got enough to eat and am perfectly safe. It's a lot like camp. I watch TV and even get outside. I know you miss me, but try not to worry. This experience might even be good for me.
Every region of the country was sampled. The focus testing showed a solid base in the 9 to 11-year-old bracket. In the 9 to 11-year-old bracket.
In the 9 to 11-year-old bracket.
With a possible carryover into the 12-year-olds.
Hello? Are you there?
Get ready to read all these words on this page without making a mistake. Look at the letter at the end and remember the sound it makes. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready to read this word the fast way. Get ready. Kid. Yes, kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. What word? Kid. Yes, kid. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready. What word? Steal. Yes, steal. Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Play. Yes, play. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Let's read these words the fast way without making a mistake. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready. Kick. Yes, kick. Get ready. Steal. Yes, steal. Get ready. Play. Yes, play. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Lesson 60 on page 150.
never see it coming. You think I'm joking?